Picture sitting down at a black tie gala. The centerpieces are crystal, the silverware is heavy, and the waiter sets down a plate of, well, literal weeds.
Right. It sounds like a total catering nightmare at first glance.
Exactly. But today we are taking you on a deep dive into how that exact scenario is actually redefining luxury. We are exploring how to completely transform event food and drinks using a really unique, niche, sustainable, foraged menus.
Yeah, we're pulling our insights directly from the guidance section of the Weddizer website. Their articles are really fantastic for helping couples find the best eco-conscious caterers for their events.
Okay, let's unpack this because, serving hand-picked sea fennel to 100 guests in formal wear is a serious flex.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah.
And we need to recognize that this isn't, just some fringe novelty anymore. Sourcing wild, hyper-local food is rapidly becoming the gold standard for modern events.
Wow, really? The gold standard.
Yeah, absolutely. People want their menus to reflect a deep connection to their environment. And serving food gathered directly from the surrounding landscape is, well, it's the ultimate expression of that.
I get the appeal of hyper-local sourcing, but I have to push back on the logistics here. It's kind of like a culinary treasure hunt, feeding 100, maybe 200 people from the wild.
It sounds daunting, for sure.
Right, because isn't shipping in out-of-season luxury items the standard for high-end events? Like, what happens if there's an unexpected dry spell and those wild mushrooms just don't grow that week? Or how do you guarantee you aren't accidentally serving something toxic?
Those are valid concerns.
Yeah, relying on seasonal foraging just feels incredibly risky, or maybe just a buzzword, compared to ordering reliable greenhouse-grown produce.
What's fascinating here is that the perceived risk is actually managed through ancient culinary techniques. These Weddizer-approved caterers aren't just walking into the woods the morning of the event hoping to get lucky.
Oh, so they plan ahead.
Exactly. To handle the scale and the unpredictability of nature, they forage months in advance. They gather ingredients when they're at their absolute peak abundance.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and then they use preservation methods, things like fermentation, pickling, and drying, to build up this massive pantry. It's actually much more cost-effective because the food is locally abundant, and it drastically lowers the environmental impact by cutting transportation emissions.
So they are essentially banking the seasons.
Spot on. If it's a woodland event, they might feature their stock of fermented wild thyme and preserved chanterelles.
And I guess if the venue is coastal, the menu shifts entirely to use dried sea herbs and pickled wild fennel.
You've got it. It's totally tied to the specific location.
But if the menu relies heavily on what the chef managed to ferment 6 months ago, you're going to end up serving guests ingredients they've probably never heard of, let alone tasted.
Which can be a hurdle, definitely.
Yeah. Right, so here's where it gets really interesting. How do these caterers make a plate of unfamiliar foraged greens feel approachable and elegant rather than intimidating?
The main mechanism they use to bridge that gap is storytelling. Because the food is unfamiliar, the caterer has to provide context.
Like explaining what the guests are actually eating.
Exactly. They design these elaborate menu cards that map out the exact origin of the ingredients. So when a guest takes a sip of the spring cocktail, they aren't just tasting elderflower.
They're reading about it, too.
Right, they're reading about how those specific blossoms were harvested just a mile down the road. It turns the meal into an interactive experience.
That reframes the entire thing. It turns a potential point of confusion into a huge conversation starter for the table.
It really does. The menu basically becomes a tour of the calendar. In the summer, you might see wild-seeded heirloom tomatoes.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, and autumn brings a deeply complex wild mushroom risotto, while winter features a hearty chestnut soup. They even carry this philosophy into the presentation itself. Instead of relying on non-biodegradable materials or synthetics, they use bright, edible flowers, like nasturtiums, as vibrant, natural table decor.
Which brings us right back to why using the Weddizer website's articles to guide your hiring is so important. You need experts who blend hyperlocal sourcing, like complex fermentation and wild seeds, with ethical practices.
Absolutely, right down to utilizing compostable servingware.
So, what does this all mean? It means celebrating life's big moments no longer requires sacrificing the planet. The definition of luxury has fundamentally shifted.
Yeah, it proves that a truly high-end experience can operate in total harmony with the landscape.
We want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If you were to walk outside and look at your own local landscape right now, what overlooked wild flavors might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to become a signature dish?